All right, welcome everyone to our Healthy Mind and Body webinar. Glad to have you guys here. It's fun to see the people who come live, but we figured we'd record. We know it's the holiday season, so people get busy with their various parties and get-togethers.
And last night we did this presentation live here in Utah, but now we've got people all across the country, so it's good to be able to connect.
Absolutely. So let's get going. All right, so we want to talk about healthy relationships tonight. And when you think of healthy relationships, what comes into your head? And we can have this be interactive if you want to drop in the chat, but what kind of pops into your head when you're thinking of like healthy relationships? I know for me, I think of a relationship to a family member that can be healthy or unhealthy, or to friends, coworkers. But there's more communication. Yes, very good, Melissa. I love that.
I think that was the first thing that was said at our live event last night too.
Yep. Oh, and Carolyn says a relationship to food. Yes.
We're going to talk about that.
You know where we're going with this, Carolyn. This isn't your first rodeo. Yeah, we can have different relationships with lots of things. We can have a relationship to our own body, to food, to society. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can have a relationship to, and sometimes they're healthier than others, right? So I want you guys to be thinking of what is something in your life where you are looking to create a better relationship or to create a healthier relationship, I would say. Okay, so some of these were already mentioned: family, friends, food, your body. There's a lot of things that, yep, Charlene too, food. I think that's a common one with our crew sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times our relationships with all of these things are reflective of each other. Like if we don't communicate well in a relationship amongst people, with other people, oftentimes we are exhibiting some of the same poor communication with ourselves and the different personas in our brain.
Yeah.
Right? We all have those, well, maybe we don't. I know that I have about 1,000 different conversations in my head every day. That's too few, probably 1 million. And sometimes they call it monkey mind, right? Have you ever felt like you've had a monkey mind where it's just going crazy and the screeching and all this stuff? So sometimes we have that monkey mind when we're talking about communicating with ourselves about what we want in any relationship, whether it's with family, friends, food, body, anything.
Yeah, for sure. So I want you to be thinking of that item or that person or that relationship that you want to have be a little healthier, and maybe even think of some of the negative thoughts that come into your head. Like, for example, Melissa said to myself. So that might be to your body, that might be to your self-esteem. It might be negative things that you say to yourself. So I want you to be thinking of those as we go along too. Because when it comes down to it, it starts with us. Because if you have a relationship with someone or something and it's not the healthiest, you can't control that other person, right? You can't control that other thing usually. Maybe you have an unhealthy relationship with money. That's not always in your control all the way. But what you can control is you. So that's what we're going to be focusing on tonight, is really becoming the labeler of your life.
Yeah, so we're going to give you an example here of an umpire. If you've watched any sport, anything with an umpire or referee, they're the judge, right? So we're going to give you an example of 3 different umpires in baseball. The first one, he labels. He says, there are balls and strikes, and I call them as they are. Right? Sounds kind of arrogant. Like, oh, I never make a wrong call, right?
Yep.
The second umpire says, there are balls and strikes, and I call them as I see them. So he recognizes that the first one sounds really objective. The second one is more subjective, recognizing that there's human error. And then the third one, there are only pitches and I call them. Right? So you see how different those three are.
Yeah, the first one, like Jared was saying, if you think about it like this, it's that first umpire was saying things have a label and my job is to get it right. It's a lot of pressure, right? Whereas the second umpire, like Jared said, a little more subjective. Things have a label and my interpretation is important. And then the third, nothing has a label until I assign it. Now, when you're the labeler of life, it really does matter where your mind is set when it comes down to it.
Yeah. So Tony Robbins says that the quality of our life is determined by our emotions and our meanings, right? Because the meanings, the labels that we put on things, determines what emotional response we have to those things, right? So somebody has, oh gosh, how does the old story go? Like this is like a Chinese fable or an Eastern fable where someone comes into the village and this man's son breaks his leg, right? And he says, "Oh, that's such a travesty that your son broke his leg." And the father says, "Well, we'll see.
Maybe it is, maybe it isn't."
Right? And then the next day, the army comes in and says, "Hey, we have to take all able-bodied," right? And he's like, "Well, I have a broken leg." And they say, "Well, such a good thing that he broke his leg because now he doesn't have to go off to war." And the father says, "Well, we'll see," right? And you can Google it and stuff. It's actually pretty long, and it goes on and on and on and on. That father just chose to say, "Well, I'm not going to label it right now. We'll just see what happens."
Yeah, life happens and then we label it, right? So if your job is to be the labeler of your life, and we all do it anyway.
That's how our brains are wired.
It's how we're wired for sure. You don't have to decide you're going to start doing it. It's happening.
No, your brain is wired this way for a purpose. It's so that you will survive.
Yeah. Keep
right?
you alive.
We're not really that, like, we talk about evolution, we came from apes. I don't know about all that stuff, but we're not really that evolved from 1,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, right? Imagine yourself as a cave person, and in order to survive, to feel secure, you needed to gain approval, right? You had to be part of a tribe. Hey, we're all going to live in a cave together and we're going to have each other's backs. And you have to live a certain way, a right way. Otherwise, you might get kicked out of the cave and now you're going to get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, right? So your brain is naturally going to label everything in your life to create this perceived security that's going to keep you alive.
Absolutely. So if that's how your brain is naturally set, one of our goals is, I don't know about you, but to start working on our mindset so that we can actually thrive rather than just survive.
Right.
And so this is one of the tools that we use, and it's the "is it true" tool. And it's really just separating out what are the objective facts happening in your life. What do you notice? What could be caught on camera versus what that you are imagining about the situation, what the stories that your brain is making up. And that's actually one of its jobs also, is to make up lots of stories so that you remember things, because stories, they catch your attention, right?
Yeah. Did you know that our brains, like if you go and read something or watch something, all these things, your brain actually only captures, we all have our modalities that are strongest, But even in our strongest modality, whether you're an audio or visual learner or whatever, that our brain actually only captures between about 15 and 25% of the objective information, and then our brain fills in the rest.
Some brains remember more objective information than others. If I need to know a stat, I'll be like, no, it sounds like Jared's portion of what to remember, right? Okay, so let's do a practice right now. So, and you can do this at home. This is kind of a fun thing to do with a significant other, or to even teach your kids, is to separate the facts from the stories that are happening in your life. So let's give an example, and then I'm going to call on one of you to come off mute and help. Okay. Surprise. So let's see. I notice that you are wearing an Optavia shirt. I imagine the story I'm making up about that is that you really like Optavia a lot, and you want to focus on the things that are on your shirt: sleep, nutrition, hydration, movement.
Awesome. That's funny. We've been married for almost 25 years, and our brains think really similarly because
sometimes that's a problem.
That it is a problem sometimes. So I noticed that you were wearing a shirt with a whole bunch of words on it: legacy, goals, congruent, personal responsibility, all this stuff. I imagine that you're a very ambitious woman.
Awesome. Okay. And sometimes, you know, when you check in, Charlene says both of our shirts are awesome. Thanks, Charlene. Thank you. When you check in with the other person on some of your imaginings, sometimes they track, and the other person's like, yeah, no, I agree with that. That's probably right. And sometimes they're just like totally like off the deep end. They're like, what? That was not what I meant by that at all. Like, here, I'll give you an example from today. We kind of had a fight about this earlier, but so I noticed that Jared made a post about like a wife, you know, it's like the doctor says, oh, do you play any dangerous sports? And then the husband says, well, I disagree with my wife sometimes. And so I noticed that Jared posted a post earlier. I made up a story that he was like mad at me, or that I was in trouble for disagreeing or something like that. And we kind of had a little fight about it. And so I actually did check in with him about it. And he was like, no, I just thought it was funny.
I saw one of my friends post it, and I literally immediately just reposted it. I'm like, oh, this is good.
Yeah. Do you have one more to do, or should we call on somebody?
No, let's call on someone.
Okay. All right. So I thought it was funny too. Okay. Well, Liz, since you just typed in the chat, why don't you come off mute, and I would love for you to do one of these, noticing the fact versus the story. Do you have an example for us?
Awesome. Okay. So this is for you.
Whatever you like.
Okay. Amber, I noticed that you're sitting like pretty close to your husband. I imagine you guys are like really good friends and like to be with each other.
Perfect. I love it.
Sometimes.
Depends on the day.
Although really close could be subjective, right? Maybe you're sitting next to him.
Yeah.
So good. No, that's a perfect example, Liz. So,
Perfect.
And you could even make things up about like a total stranger, you know, like
We do, in fact.
yeah. I mean, that's part of what our brain does, right? So Liz, do you see someone on the screen that you don't know that you can just notice something?
So I see like Melissa Swenson. Melissa, I noticed that you have a really pretty background and it's daylight there. So I imagine you must live somewhere other than where I live because it's dark outside.
There you go.
And Carolyn, I noticed that you are wearing red. So I imagine you like to be festive because that's the Christmas color.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Liz is doing a perfect job of just like noticing things and then making up a story about it, right?
So, and you notice that her story in Melissa's case was incorrect because Melissa lives in Wisconsin.
Yeah, we had other information. Liz didn't know that about Melissa.
So you notice how our brains make up stuff all the time, and it's like, oh, this is a great story. And sometimes our story is more fun than the actual truth, right?
So true, so true. Okay, so I want to give you guys a challenge to practice this with somebody, a friend, a family member, coworker, anybody. Practice this. Is it true? Exercise yourself.
And I'll add something to that. When you get good at this, and I'm still working on this a lot all the time. We all are. But when especially someone that cares about you shares a fact and story, I notice that, I imagine that. Oftentimes it is our inclination to defend ourselves. Well, that's totally wrong.
Yeah. Some of you might have even felt that, like when she said that of Melissa was probably like, no, I don't live in another, like, not that she was offended by it, but.
But we had a mentor years and years ago that offered us this simple response. Isn't that interesting? Right? You don't have to go into this whole fight about things. You can just say, huh, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, no, that's good. And so these are all like thought waves. I want you to think of these like stories, just like waves, like probably most of us have either been to the ocean or you've like at least seen like a movie about the ocean.
Or the Great Lakes have tides also.
Yes, something with waves. And I want you to think of these stories that we make up as thought waves, okay? And I even want you to think of maybe something that's not even with another person. We talked earlier about like relationship to your own body, relationship to food. Think of some thought waves that come to you. It could be along the lines of like, I'm not good enough, or I'm not pretty enough. I'm more overweight than I should be, or that food is bad, that food is good, or you know what I mean? It's like, you can't prove that in a court of law. It's very subjective. And so all of these thoughts, I want you to think of thought waves, and we're going to give you guys some tools to start handling these, because these are not going to go away. The waves are not going to go away in the ocean. If they do, I think the world just like exploded or something.
They might calm down sometimes.
Yeah.
And there'll be little ripples, and you feel like you're doing really well. But then a storm's going to come in. Some other things that are out of your control are going to come in, and your brain is wired to respond to those with all of your conditioning, all your life conditioning, past traumas, everything. So this way of being able to deal with these thought waves is really important so that we can focus on what we want more than we're focusing on what we don't want.
Yes, so true. Okay, so how we surf the waves. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. So surfing thought waves. We're going to give you guys a couple of tools. The first one is, these are just kind of little mantras that you can use. Just because I think it doesn't mean it's true. This is a good time. This is a good thing to remember when you're like dealing with someone else too, is that's why we check in. That's why we say, I noticed this and I imagine that, because you're realizing just because I think it doesn't mean that's the truth. Just because I think that my butt's too big doesn't mean it's true. Actually, I think mine's too small. Isn't that funny?
She's trying to build it up.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Okay, another one.
Every thought isn't necessarily important. In fact, most of my thoughts are not important, right? They just spin me, and they actually get in the way of the important thoughts a lot of times, right? I mean, my kids are mostly grown. Our youngest is 16 years old. And something that I said to my kids a lot growing up, more my boys than our daughter that's still home. But I said, don't believe everything that I say, because I don't even believe everything I say, right?
Check it before you wreck it.
Yeah. And I also I'm trying not to take as hard of a stance on some things and in a lot of things in my life, because when you take a really hard stance on things, it closes you off from gaining knowledge in the future and learning things that might dispel those things.
Yeah, I like what
Right?
Liz put in the chat too. She said, with practice, you learn how to read the waves, making
So
it
good.
easier to navigate them.
So good.
This is such a good analogy. The ocean is such a good analogy for this.
Yeah.
Also, a thought isn't an order. If you're driving home from work and you pass by the McDonald's and your brain says you should stop and get McDonald's, it's not an order, you guys. It's just a thought wave. You can go, oh, that's funny that my brain just sent that.
Yeah.
Because not every thought is wise. Not always wise to stop at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, one of the first things that I learned, like kind of put all these things together, 15 years ago when we were introduced to Optavia, was Dr. Anderson, our co-founder and medical director. He's like, did you know that eating the Oreos or whatever it is, that wasn't just a sudden decision? You had to make probably at minimum 25 choices before you put that Oreo in your mouth, right? You saw a coupon and you clipped the coupon, and then you put it in your wallet or your purse or whatever, and you took it to the store with you and you put Oreos on your grocery list.
You decide to go down
You
that
decided to
aisle.
go down that aisle, and then you selected which of the 50 different kinds of Oreos that you wanted.
You're making me want Oreos.
Right? I do not like Oreos. My kids love the mint Oreos. So like every Christmas time, they always want us to go find them somewhere. But you realize that we have to make a lot of different choices in the process of making that one choice that we often beat ourselves up for.
Exactly. And at any point we could surf those
stop it.
thought waves,
Yeah.
right? So let's give you guys another tool. It's called Go to the Movies. And it's just an easy way of explaining metacognition. And metacognition is that we are able to think about our thinking. We're able to analyze what happened. And, you know, like your dog or your cat, they can't do this.
Yeah.
They can't think about their thing. It's just like food, eat, pet me, bark, you know?
Right.
And so it's stepping out of your thoughts and observing them.
So imagine your life is up on the big screen, right? And now you're the observer in the chairs, in the seats, hopefully luxury loungers.
Right.
And
regular seats, it's not even worth it.
I know. And then you're observing what's going on. You're literally stepping out, kind of having an out of body, out of mind experience. And you're saying, oh, this is just what's happening on the screen.
And there's no need to judge them. You don't have to go, oh, such a terrible person. Oh, my brain told me to stop at McDonald's again. I can't believe it. When am I going to change? How about it's just a thought wave. We don't need to judge ourselves for it. They're going to come. And just making room for unpleasant feelings, sensations, urges. And this is the key part, because a lot of times, instead of making room for these unpleasant feelings, we want to buffer them. We want to avoid them. We want to scroll on our phone and play Sudoku and sit in our massage chair for an hour. Okay, maybe those things that I do, but instead of dealing with it. But one thing that I found is that you really are able to process better when you're not just buffering these things away. So allowing without the struggle, without the buffer, is going to help you to move on more quickly, and it bothers us less. And I can attest to this, because we're all human beings on planet Earth where we're going to buffer. It's okay. You're not a bad person. Don't judge yourself for that. But you do feel a lot better when you face it head on, when you see the thought waves for what they are. All right. Okay. So we want to bring on our next speaker, Liz Jensen. And Liz, I would love to hear some of your thoughts about what we've talked about already, or you could share a little bit of your story, whatever is coming to you right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I just love everything that you're teaching because it's so applicable in all areas of our life, and it helps us to really become the person that we want to be. I'll just share my quick story. So this picture on the left in the orange tank top, that's actually kind of like my after picture, because I've been coaching for 12 years. And so as our journey progresses, we have so many different stories, and we get to be different in different places. And that picture on the left was actually after I lost 45 pounds. I had 6 babies and gained a lot of baby weight. And I was in a really good place with my health, I thought, at that time. And I'd been exercising at the gym, consistently lifting weights for the past year, walking over 10,000 steps a day. I really felt like my habits were in check. I felt like I was a really good place. And so that picture was actually my first gym selfie. Anyone that's taken a picture at the gym, it's super awkward. You have to like find a spot time when like no one's around. And so that was my first gym selfie because I could like see some definition in my arms. I was feeling confident. And it was the beginning of summer. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to level up my health, because with Optavia, I'd learned so many things about being healthy. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to go back into a weight loss phase, and I'm going to start using the essential amino acids that Jared and Amber have been recommending for years. I'd use some other things, but it wasn't, I really didn't notice a difference. So I decided during the summer, I'm going to see what could happen. So I went back to the basics of really focusing on balancing my blood sugar. And we'll go more into that also. But I had learned all the tools, especially during the weight loss phase. It's so simple. You don't even realize that you're doing it. You're really learning and retraining your brain to make those choices. And so about 3 months later, I had noticed a huge difference. Because for the past year, I hadn't really even noticed a lot of change. And we go to the gym and we see people work out for years and never see a change because they don't have their nutrition in check. They're just lifting weights. And so combining the right nutrition by balancing blood sugar, that's really the trick. And then also incorporating the essential amino acids, which I think they'll talk more about next week. I was really able to see some progress and just kind of level up. And so it's just been a fun journey for me, for sure. Do you want me to cover these ones also again? Okay, so let me just explain what balancing blood sugar looks like. Now, most of us that, are alive, we usually tend to follow this example of our modern diet. Usually like 3 bigger meals, like kind of snacking throughout the day, like mindlessly. Often we'll start our morning thinking that we're off to a good start, having some juice, maybe some sweet coffee, a smoothie, grab a donut. And what that does is it spikes your blood sugar, especially the first thing in the morning. It makes a big difference. If you're eating sweets, it's going to spike your blood sugar and you're going to crave that all day. And so what happens is your blood sugar spikes and your body kind of goes into panic mode. It's got to get that blood sugar back level. It's got to store that glucose into your fat cells, into your muscle, just to like get it back to normal. And so what happens is it goes to town, like just storing that glucose, and then your blood sugar spikes. That's why after you eat something sweet, like you might feel good for a few minutes, 20 minutes or half an hour, and then you kind of crash again. And so, you grab something like a bagel or a handful of candy from your work drawer, or, leftovers from your kid's plate, whatever. And about every 2.5 to 3 hours, you're having to grab something else. And your blood sugar is just like on a roller coaster ride. I like roller coasters. This looks like a fun roller coaster, but when it's happening in your body, it's not so fun. And so that's what's happening is all day long, your body is just reacting. It's storing that glucose, storing it into your fat cells, anything extra that's, it's not using, and you're having those highs and lows. And so with Optavia, you really learn the science of balancing your blood sugar, of leveling that out so that you can feel good and have energy. And so there was actually a really famous study done at University of Toronto. And it's so interesting because in this study, there were 2 groups of people, large groups of people, and they actually ate the exact same food, same calories, same exact foods. But one group, they ate 3 meals a day, like we hear all the time, eat 3 meals a day. So their meals were bigger and they just ate 3 meals. The other group, they split the same food into 6 smaller meals throughout the day. And it was amazing what they found. So the group that ate the 6 smaller meals, like you learn how to do with Optavia, they actually lost more weight. Their blood insulin levels were much more stable. Their blood sugar levels were more stable. Their cholesterol levels went down, and they felt better. They felt more satisfied. And so the results were amazing, even with the same foods when you space it out. But where the magic really happens is knowing how to do that, like what to be eating. And so that's one thing that I have loved about the Optavia program. From the first time I used the program after I had my babies 12 years ago, I learned what it meant to balance your blood sugar. So during the weight loss phase, if you're in that stage, it makes it so simple. You're grabbing a fueling. It's already macro balanced for you. You don't have to chop and prepare and count your macros. You just grab one of those fuelings. They're already macro balanced for you. Every 2.5 to 3 hours, you're grabbing one. You're learning how to make a healthy, lean and green meal, what to order at the restaurant, what to buy at the store, what things will keep your blood sugar balanced. And so you start noticing right away that your blood sugar is more stable and the scale starts showing the success also. Now, here's the trick, you guys. The weight loss phase is very simple. It's goof proof. Follow it, you're going to get results. But what is magical is that next step. Once you lose your weight, you really learn how to incorporate those same tools into a healthy lifestyle. You still eat at the same times that you did before. You still are conscious of balancing your carbs and your proteins. I like to think of the 2 Ps, looking for proteins and produce. Those are my go-to things. But I still eat every few hours, and I still prioritize protein. What protein am I going to eat during this 3-hour snack or meal? And then what healthy carb can I pair it with? That is really the trick to keeping that weight off and feeling good, even through the holidays. When you go to a holiday party or a restaurant, ask yourself, how can I keep my blood sugar balanced? What proteins can I use here? And so that's one thing that I've loved with the program is the fuelings. You can still use those even after you lose your weight. I still eat the fuelings. I don't eat 5 a day, but when I'm in a hurry or the ones that I love, it's a routine. I know it's going to keep my blood sugar balanced. I'm going to be good for 3 hours. If I'm busy or running errands, I can take a bar with me and know that I am good for that 3-hour period. And so it makes it a saver. And to know that they're already macro balanced and they've got your vitamins, your probiotics, you don't even have to think about it. That is what's great, is like just having that convenient, healthy tool to be able to get you where you want to be and to just continue moving forward with your health goals. So that's one thing that I love about, I love all the 4 components, but I love the science behind the fuelings.
I love that, Liz. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is really important stuff because, like I said earlier, we've been coaching for a decade and a half. And when we started a decade and a half ago, the National Institute of Health and the World Health Organization indicated that the average American and European at the time were eating roughly 2,400 calories a day. Today, the average, both organizations say that we're eating on average 3,540 calories a day.
Wow.
We've increased our calorie consumption by 1,100 calories a day.
Yeah.
On average as adults in Europe and the United States. We've got to do a better job of, because it's not just us, it's setting a precedence for our children also.
Yeah. There's all these thought waves that come and some of them are like, I need more food.
Yeah.
I need more sugar. I need to reward myself.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be healthy.
And in the last decade and in the future decade, there's going to be more and more and more easy, unhealthy food that is constantly around us.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go, there's smells and there's sensations and stuff that are saying, hey, buy me, eat me.
That's why I really love the fuelings,
Yeah.
is it like breaks it down to the lowest common denominator. Like here is a healthy,
Yeah.
ready to go food for you.
Yep.
When your brain is going crazy with thought
Yeah.
waves, right?
Yeah.
And because when we do fuel our body consistently, it actually helps our brain to work better.
Yeah.
Our body performs better. All of our organs perform better, including our brain. We have stronger muscles, which helps our metabolism work better. when you're even out, it really does help so much. And then the healthy numbers, Liz mentioned the cholesterol reduction and the blood sugar reduction.
And that last one, better energy, this is huge. So many people I talk to, this is probably the number one thing. They're like, I just want more energy.
Yeah.
Well, eating more food isn't the answer to more energy, to
Not
better
always,
energy.
not always.
It's quality food.
Yeah. Exactly. And there's a lot of people who telling people, don't lose weight, you're beautiful the way you are. And I want to tell you that I believe that 100% that you are beautiful the way you are.
That changing in any way isn't going to make you worth more.
No.
You're of infinite worth right now.
Absolutely. I 100% believe that. It's about this. It's about, do you want more energy? Do you want stronger muscles? Do you want your body to perform in a life of creating what you want? It's a completely different topic.
Yeah.
I always laugh at people when they say that.
You're like, you're talking about column A and I'm talking about column B.
Exactly. You are a amazing person at any weight on the scale. That does not measure the amount of amazingness
That's
of
like
you.
It's like the fight between tennis and pickleball nowadays. They're like, tennis players are like, well, you can't play pickleball. That's like absurd. And it's like, hey, both sports are great.
It's so true. But Liz touched on a lot of the components of our system. And, we were talking about the healthy mindset at the beginning of this. And we get a lot of this from our Habits of Health transformational system and in our Optavia community, in webinars like this, in events that we can attend, and getting together with other people who want to improve their life, who want to link arms with others. That's the people who are attracted to the Optavia community. We talked about the fuelings. Everybody gets a coach. A coach is not in charge of your success. I just want to say that. A coach is not in charge of your success.
They're there to kind of ride shotgun with you.
Yeah.
You know how they say don't text and drive, right? They're there to sit in the passenger seat and do the texting for you and like put in the GPS and stuff. So you don't have to be distracted as you're behind the wheel.
Yeah. It's a buddy to go on the hike.
Buddy. Yeah.
And so if you are new, you're looking into this plan, do a health assessment with the coach who invited you. You've got nothing to lose. It's free.
Yeah.
I mean, worst case scenario is you go, well, it's not for me. Okay, well, you're in the same place as you were before.
Yeah.
So doing a health assessment helps you to just kind of like assess out your goals.
Yeah.
And to go, where am I going? How am I getting there? Am I on the path that will lead me there? And that's one of the big reasons why we chose coaching almost 15 years ago, is the path that we were on was making us stressed out, broke financially, and not having good, healthy relationships with a lot of different areas of our life, basically.
Yeah.
And you can see our cute little kids here at the top, and now they're cute, big
Adults.
kids.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting to see how we've raised them over the last 15 years in this Optavia community and the value that that's brought us. And not just because we know how to pair proteins and carbs.
No, I could tell you countless stories about each one of these three kids, how as they've grown, they've made choices that are based on the principles that we teach, starting with food.
Yeah.
Right? It's standing up for themselves and being leaders and being able to resolve conflict.
Being their authentic selves.
Yeah. Being able to process their emotions. So that, like to Amber's point earlier, check it before you wreck it. Absolutely.
And I just feel so good about being partnered with a company as high caliber as Optavia is. We've been named by Forbes most trustworthy company, by Fortune second fastest growing company in the world. And there's a lot of accolades that we've received over the years.
What do they say the greatest compliment is, or the greatest flattery is? A copycat.
Yeah.
Right? Just just 2 days ago, I saw a copycat online and they literally stole our logo.
Did you ever send that?
Yeah, I send it to our legal team, and our lead lawyer, counsels responded to me and said, "I'll get this over to the department that actually takes people to court."
Right. And our company, I like being partnered with them because they're wise financially.
Yeah.
They don't have debt. They have over 200 million in extra money in the bank. And when times get tough, I'm glad that I'm partnered with a company that is financially wise.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our clients do explore coaching. It's not a good fit for everyone in the whole world. It's not. That's okay with us. We attract the people who want to improve their mindset towards health, people who want to dive into personal development, people who like flexibility, who like purpose in their work. That's the type of people who are attracted.
I would add one more thing. Good coaches typically like people.
They could learn to like people.
Yeah, you could learn to like them.
Also, you're 5 times more likely to reach and maintain your healthy weight
Yeah.
as a coach. And they also pay us. You guys, I just told you all of these reasons why we started coaching. I didn't even think about, and also they pay us. But typically home-based businesses, 99 out of 100 people will lose money in a home-based business. That's the statistics. Just Google it. And 1 out of 100 will make more than $3,000 a year. That's not great numbers, but let's look at Optavia's numbers. More than 3 out of 4 Optavia coaches are making money, and 1 out of every 6 Optavia coaches make more than $5,000 a year.
Yeah, and this is very, very part-time, just helping some of their family and friends, and and then referrals. It kind of snowballs.
Most of our coaches still have full-time jobs or stay-at-home parents and things like that.
Yeah.
So, some of you came on tonight just to learn a little bit about coaching. So for those of you, we want to give you some information, maybe just helping a few family members, friends. If you're helping 6 people on our full plan, you'd be earning over $500 in a month. That's a car payment or saving up for a vacation, paying off debt.
If you're helping more, like this example, helping 17 people, you're making over $2,000 a month. I remember out of college, my first job, I wasn't making this, and it was a full time, and I was working more than 40 hours a week.
That was a little while ago.
That was
There's
a little
been
while
some
ago.
inflation since you were
I'm
in
old.
college. And some people, there's a smaller person. Most of our coaches are part-time, and that's great. We love our part-time coaches. And then some make it more of a main business, like my husband and I have. And if you're helping over 100 lives, that type of a business, you'd be earning over $8,000 a month. And that's pretty cool because every client who comes in, they're impacted. They're impacted by Optavia in some way, whether that's their healthy body, healthy mind, or healthy finances. So we want to thank you guys for joining us tonight. We hope that we've given you some value. We've given you some things to work on. I want to encourage you to take up that challenge to practice the "is it true" exercise that we gave you, what you notice, what you imagine. And if you're free next week, why don't you join our next webinar, which is coming up on Thursday, December 14th, same time, 6:30. That is Mountain Time. I know I put my own time zone on this. It's just how I roll.
So we remember to get on at the right time.
It's true. And we're going to be talking about getting active during the holidays and just exercise, muscle protection, and having an active mindset. So appreciate you guys for hopping on. Thank you, Liz, for helping out tonight and being an awesome speaker as well. And have an amazing week, you guys. Sure appreciate you. We'll see ya.